This show is part of OnePlace, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to today's briefing. We have a heavy lineup of legal and breaking news stories to cover, ranging from high-profile murder charges to international incidents and major defamation lawsuits in the capital.
Singer d4vd faces murder charges for a teen's death.
A foster brother is charged in a toddler's death.
Prosecutors detail the horrific evidence against musician David Burke.
Neighbors describe a chaotic shootout in Shreveport, Louisiana.
A father kills 8 children during a domestic rampage.
A Canadian tourist is killed at Mexico's historic pyramids.
FBI Director Kash Patel sues over a media report.
Tracy Grist denies masterminding her son-in-law's murder.
First, the d4vd case.
The music world is reeling after singer-songwriter d4vd, whose real name is David Anthony Burke, was formally charged with the first-degree murder of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman announced these charges on Monday, describing a case that is truly harrowing. The victim's dismembered remains were discovered in the front trunk of a Tesla belonging to the 21-year-old musician last September. Prosecutors alleged that Burke had been sexually abusing the girl since she was 13 and killed her when she threatened to expose his conduct and ruin his career. The charges include special circumstances like lying in wait and murdering a witness, which means Burke could face life without parole or even the death penalty if he is convicted of these crimes.
The details provided by the district attorney's office are incredibly disturbing, particularly the allegation that the victim's body remained in the vehicle for months as it decomposed. Burke was arrested last week following a grand jury investigation that looked into the timeline of the abuse and the eventual murder in April 2025. During his court appearance in downtown Los Angeles on Monday, Burke's attorneys entered a plea of not guilty on his behalf. His legal team is already pushing back against the prosecution's narrative, stating they believe the actual evidence will show that Burke did not murder the teenager, nor was he the cause of her death. This sets the stage for a high-stakes legal battle as the DA's office decides whether to pursue the death penalty for the young artist.
Next up,
in Santa Clara County, California, a tragic case has emerged involving the death of a 2-year-old boy named Jackson Juarez, affectionately known as Baby Jackson. An 18-year-old male, who was a minor at the time of the incident on Easter Sunday, is facing charges of murder, sexual assault, and a unique charge of felony assault with a hair tie. Prosecutors say the teen wrapped a ponytail holder around the toddler's neck, leading to his death just weeks after Jackson was placed in the foster care of the teen's mother. District Attorney Jeff Rosen expressed profound heartbreak over the case, noting that Jackson was found in his crib with several traumatic injuries. The boy was placed on life support but unfortunately passed away a few days later, sparking outrage over the foster care system's oversight.
This case raises serious questions about the California Department of Family and Children's Services, as Jackson is the third foster child to be murdered under their care since 2023. It has been revealed that Jackson was placed with Bridget Michelle Martinez, the suspect's mother, despite her having a prior felony conviction for child endangerment. The district attorney's office is currently seeking to transfer the 18-year-old suspect's case from juvenile court to adult court, given the severity of the allegations. Rosen emphasized that his office will speak for the lost children who can no longer tell their own stories, highlighting a systemic failure to protect vulnerable youth. The community is now demanding answers as to why a child with a known history of endangerment was allowed to provide foster care, leading to this horrific and preventable loss of life.
Now to the singer.
Returning to the case of David Burke, also known as d4vd, more details have emerged regarding the timeline of the disappearance of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. She was last seen alive on April 23, 2025. After being invited to Burke's home in the Hollywood Hills, her body was not found until what would have been her 15th birthday in September. District Attorney Nathan Hochman explained that the delay in filing charges was due to the rigorous investigation required when there are no eyewitnesses or video evidence. Investigators had to meticulously analyze digital and forensic data to build their case. The prosecution is focusing on the financial gain aspect, arguing that Burke killed the girl to protect his lucrative music career from the fallout of his alleged sexual abuse. This motive is central to the first-degree murder charge and the special circumstances being applied.
The medical examiner faced significant challenges because the body was so severely decomposed by the time it was discovered in the trunk of Burke's car. Hochman described the situation as a parent's worst nightmare, where a child goes out for the night and never returns. The victim's family is reportedly experiencing incalculable grief as the details of the mutilation and the months-long concealment come to light. While Burke's defense team maintains his innocence, the prosecution is highlighting the brutal and horrific nature of the crime. The community is watching closely as the legal process unfolds, especially given Burke's prominence in the music industry. The decision on whether to seek the death penalty remains a major point of interest, as the DA's office continues to review the evidence of lying in wait and the silencing of a potential witness.
Moving to Louisiana.
In Shreveport, Louisiana, neighbors are still processing the shock of a mass shooting that left 8 children dead. The suspect, Shamar Elkins, allegedly killed 7 of his own children and their cousin before fleeing in a stolen car. Witnesses Jacob and Tiffany Castleman described hearing a barrage of gunfire and sirens, realizing later that a full-blown shootout was occurring right outside their home. They spoke of the total chaos and terror they felt as police officers with guns drawn pursued the suspect. Another neighbor, Liza Deming, captured video on her security camera of the gunman running from the house. She also reported the heartbreaking sight of a child's covered body on the roof of the residence. The scale of the violence has left the entire neighborhood in a state of disbelief as they try to reconcile the tragedy with their quiet surroundings.
The community's reaction to Shamar Elkins has been mixed, with some describing him as appearing dead behind the eyes. Lashawan Berry, who ran a local daycare and knew the family, said Elkins seemed to have no soul, comparing him to a non-player character in a game. However, other neighbors like Fred Montgomery said they saw no warning signs that such a horrific event was possible. He noted that the children often played in the yard and seemed like a normal family. This contrast in perceptions highlights the difficulty in identifying potential threats before they escalate into mass violence. As the investigation continues, the focus remains on the victims and the trauma inflicted on the survivors. The loss of 8 young lives in a single domestic incident has sparked a national conversation about domestic violence and the availability of resources for families in crisis.
Continuing in Shreveport,
further details on the Shreveport massacre reveal that Shamar Elkins was reportedly battling dark thoughts and demons before the shooting spree. Relatives mentioned that Elkins and his wife were in the middle of a separation, which may have been a catalyst for the domestic violence incident. The violence spanned 3 different locations on the morning of April 19, starting with the shooting of one woman who survived. Elkins then moved to another home where he killed the 8 children, who ranged in age from just 12 months to 14 years old. One child managed to survive by jumping off the roof, while another was found dead on the roof after an apparent attempt to escape. Police Chief Wayne Smith expressed his deep sorrow, stating he could not imagine how such a heinous act could occur within their community.
After the killings, Elkins carjacked a man at gunpoint and led police on a chase into Bossier Parish. The pursuit ended when officers were forced to open fire, neutralizing Elkins, who was pronounced dead at the scene. This outcome means there will be no trial to provide further answers for the grieving family. Crystal Brown, a cousin of Elkins' wife, confirmed that the suspect had shot his own wife and murdered his children. The tragedy has left 2 adult women hospitalized with serious injuries and a community mourning the loss of an entire generation of one family. The details of the violent domestic incident serve as a grim reminder of the lethality of domestic disputes. As the survivors begin the long road to recovery, the focus is on supporting the family and understanding the mental health struggles that Elkins' relatives say preceded this massacre.
Now to Mexico.
A Canadian tourist was tragically killed during a shooting at the Teotihuacan pyramids in Mexico on Monday. A gunman opened fire at the popular archaeological site, killing the woman and injuring at least 13 others, including 7 Americans. The shooter eventually took his own life at the scene. Videos posted on social media showed a man with a gun pacing near the top of the Pyramid of the Moon, while gunshots echoed through the area, causing panic among the millions of tourists who visit the site annually. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum expressed her sincere solidarity with the victims and their families, noting that the incident has deeply pained the nation. Authorities are currently in contact with the Canadian Embassy to coordinate the aftermath of this rare and shocking act of violence at one of Mexico's most significant historical landmarks.
Among the injured were a 29-year-old American man and a 61-year-old American woman who suffered gunshot wounds. Others were injured in falls as they tried to escape the gunfire. As of Monday night, 8 people remained hospitalized. Security officials recovered a firearm, a bladed weapon, and ammunition at the scene, but the motive for the attack remains unclear. The Teotihuacan pyramids, located about 30 miles north of Mexico City, are usually a place of peaceful reflection and historical study. This event has raised concerns about security at major tourist destinations in Mexico. The Interior Ministry is working to provide support to the affected individuals, while investigators piece together the gunman's actions. For many travelers, the incident serves as a sobering reminder of the unpredictability of public safety, even in world-renowned cultural heritage sites that are typically considered safe for international visitors.
Next, Kash Patel.
FBI Director Kash Patel has filed a massive $250 million defamation lawsuit against The Atlantic, following a report he calls pure fantasy. The article, written by Sarah Fitzpatrick, alleged that Patel has been missing in action at the FBI and described instances of excessive drinking and paranoia. One specific claim involved a freakout where Patel supposedly thought he had been fired because he couldn't log into his computer, which turned out to be a technical error. Patel's legal team argues that the report is entirely false and was published with actual malice. However, First Amendment experts suggest that Patel faces a daunting road ahead. As a high-ranking public official, he must prove that the magazine knew the information was false or acted with reckless disregard for the truth, which is a very high legal bar to clear in defamation cases.
The Atlantic's report cited 9 unnamed sources who described Patel as being on edge following the firing of Pam Bondi and other administration failures. It also referenced a public video of Patel chugging a beer at the Olympics as evidence that his drinking was no secret. Patel's lawyers complained that the FBI was only given a very short window of 111 minutes to respond to the extensive list of allegations before the story went live. Despite the denial included in the piece, Patel is determined to take the matter to court. The magazine stands by its reporting, expressing confidence in the accuracy of the sources. This lawsuit highlights the ongoing tension between the current administration and the media, as well as the difficulties public figures face when trying to litigate claims of reputational damage. The outcome could have significant implications for how anonymous sourcing is used in reporting on government officials.
Finally, Tracy Grist.
In Provo, Utah, 60-year-old Tracy Grist took the stand in her own defense, denying any involvement in the murder of her son-in-law, Matthew Restelli. Prosecutors allege that Grist masterminded the plot, which resulted in Restelli being shot to death in her home by her son Kevin Ellis. Grist's daughter, Catherine Restelli, has already pleaded guilty and testified against her mother, claiming that Grist made jokes about killing Matthew and helped plan the murder during a sushi dinner. Grist, however, testified that any comments she made about wanting to strangle him were merely flippant remarks born out of frustration with her daughter's troubled marriage. She maintained that she only offered her home as a safe space for her daughter to think things through and never intended for any violence to occur. The defense is painting Grist as a supportive mother who was caught in a tragic situation.
Grist flatly denied recruiting her son into a murder plot, offering a different version of the conversations they had. She claimed she simply asked her son to be around the house when Matthew arrived so they could have a conversation about the couple's options. This contradicts her daughter's testimony about a calculated plan to lure Matthew to his death. The prosecution has already rested its case, having presented texts and testimony that they believe prove a criminal conspiracy. Grist's son has already been convicted for his role in the shooting, adding another layer of complexity to the family dynamic presented in court. As the trial continues, the jury will have to decide between the daughter's account of a cold-blooded conspiracy and the mother's claim of innocent, albeit frustrated, venting. The case has captivated the local community due to its dark themes of domestic violence and family betrayal.
That wraps up our briefing for today. Thank you for joining us for these important updates. We will be back tomorrow with more focused coverage on the stories that matter most to you.